Welcome to the Happy Lawyer Project. I'm your host, Akoma Moronu, and I created this show to help lawyers find happiness in life with a law degree. Together with my guests, we provide the knowledge, skills, insight, and inspiration you need to find you're happy. So I'm going to have to take that back, because today there is no guest. Well, no real guest. Today it's just me behind the mic, and I just have your comments and contributions on the show. It is the long-awaited money episode. Yeah, so for those of you who've been following along, this year I launched a very informal money book club. Because as you know, I'm a huge personal finance junkie, and I read a ton of money books, and I wanted that to be something I could share with you guys, because I know that so many of you are interested in learning more about your money and getting more confident with your money and to really grow your wealth. And so I invited you to join me as I read the books that I had planned on reading this year, and we could have conversations about them throughout the year as we're reading along together. And so the first book of the year was by Miss Jen Sincero, who writes the Badass collection of books, and we read her, I guess she now has a newer one, but this was new at the time when I picked it. And it's Jen Sincero, You're a Badass at Making Money. So I thought that it would be really fun today to kind of go through what I thought were the top takeaways from this book, kind of what I learned through my own reflections, what I heard from you guys, and some of my thoughts on the book. I would love to hear from you guys after the show. If you agree, disagree, if anything comes up for you guys, I'd love to hear about it. But let us dive right in. The number one thing that the book made very clear to me was that in order to make the money that you want to make in your life, you have to get ready to be really, really uncomfortable. And I know so many of you out there are like, well, I'm pretty damn uncomfortable and I'm not making any money. But that's not the kind of uncomfortable that I'm talking about. The kind of uncomfortable that this book requires and growing your wealth requires is really about unearthing your fears and confronting them and then taking action and being able to move forward through those fears. I think that that part is so important because so often we say, oh yeah, I know I have this issue with money, and we want to kind of just get stuck there analyzing the issue and reading about it. And you could read money mindset books for years without doing anything. And so I think the part about unearthing the fear is important, but it's as important as the taking action part and the moving forward part, because you're not going to grow your wealth if you can't take action towards the type of person that you want to become. And so back to the original point I made about the discomfort, I know that so many of you are super uncomfortable. You're working really hard, you're working long hours, you've put in the time, and you're just not seeing the results in your bank account. And I think that the way I like to think about this is how I learned to think about it actually from Marie Forleo. She talks about thinking about discomfort in terms of expansive versus contracting. So when you are thinking about pursuing an action and you come up against this fear or this discomfort, do you feel like moving forward expands your life? Like physically, do you feel expansive in your body? Do you want to open up your chest and like step into it? And do you feel kind of this uplifting possibility? Or do you feel this kind of closing in and this fear and this contraction? Because there's really two kinds of fear. And the one means I'm afraid because this is big and new and exciting. Go after that one. And I know that for so many of us, we go after the fear that feels safer, even though there's a discomfort, and that discomfort comes from knowing it's not the right choice. That discomfort comes from knowing that we're settling for something that's smaller than the life we want or smaller than the possibilities that we have within us. So that was my first takeaway, was that in order for anyone to really earn the money for the life that you want, is to be ready to be uncomfortable. Number 2, give yourself permission to be rich. This one is especially important. And I think one that took me a long, long time to grapple with, and I've only come to terms with really in the last couple of years. I think I am very open and honest now about the fact that I expect to be a millionaire in my lifetime. That is a goal. That's where I'm headed. That is what I'm doing with my life. And I say it without feeling kind of icky and like gross about having that aspiration. And the way Jen Sincero talks about it is she, really makes clear that there's never going to be a lack of conflicting opinions on what the right way to live is. And she gives the example of going to someone's house and you see that they have this like really cool house with these like speakers and everything's hooked up and it's super cool. And you're like, yeah, I want to make money so that one day I can have a cool sound system and live in a cool, techie house. And then the next week you go to see another friend and that friend is living very simply and has the same clothes they've had for 10 years and they're living this very austere life. And you're like, oh, gosh, that's the life I want. I want a life that's simple and a life that's just stripped down to the bare necessities. And I think that if you're always looking externally, which is Jen Sincero's point, there's always going to be people living life in a way that would seem aspirational or inspirational or any of those terms, but they may not be the right life for you. So you really have to determine what you want from your life and how much money you need in order to live that life. And for Jen Sincero, that is what it means to be rich. Rich for her does not mean having 1 million, 2 million, 100 million, or even, $10, $11, $1 more than you need is rich to Jen Sincero. If you have the money you need to live the life that is your fullest potential, that's enough money. And I think that sometimes we strip that down because we don't want to be perceived as greedy or selfish or entitled. And she makes very clear in the book that if you allow yourself to make all the money you need, this is not greedy or selfish, nor will it turn you into a greedy, money-hungry monster. It's so funny that she says this in the book because I actually had a conversation recently with an attorney who actually said the words, all millionaires are bad, it's just some of them also do good things. And she said it half jokingly, but there's something to that. There is this idea that we have that people who've made it or who've made a lot of money have done something bad to get there, or are greedy for holding on to all that money and not like spreading the wealth. And I think you really have to move through why you think those things and why you have those limiting beliefs around wealth, because they're just regular people who have accumulated a lot of money. And just like any other group of people, there are good ones, there are bad ones, there are mediocre ones, there are, ones who give, there are ones who don't give, there are ones who give a lot to things you agree with, there are ones who give a lot to things you disagree with. So it's not about the money, it's just amplifies who they are. And likewise, if you get the money that you need, it will amplify who you are, and it will allow you to do more of the things you want to do. I got an interesting message from one of the book club members, and she said, this is a quote, "Growing up in a very small country in South America, money was perceived as a bad word, something useful, but still not something that you should really care about." She notes in her message that her dad is also a lawyer in a very small town in this very small country, and he is the kind of lawyer that does what she calls ideals of justice law. But she is hoping to pursue corporate law. And so she says that she's struggling to find the perfect balance, if there is anything like that, between her future practice, which mostly relies on making money and profits, and the foundations on which she was raised, which is that money is not important. And I think this is such a perfect example of the things that so many of us are struggling with. So what I want to say to her, and I think a lot of you would agree, this has nothing to do with growing in America or outside of America. I think it's definitely something that's cultural and that a lot of different cultures have for different reasons. But there is a lot of reframing that needs to be done around why she's pursuing the kind of law that she's pursuing. Because I think if she thought of herself as a corporate lawyer for a corporation whose values she believes in, whose products she believes in, whose mission she believes in, that's still corporate law, but there's also a lot of money to be made. And this idea that we tend to have in the law that you can either do good, quote unquote, work with your legal degree and make no money, or you can, quote unquote, sell out and make money, drives that divide. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I think it is harder, obviously, to make money in one sphere than the other, but it is also possible to make money doing good and to do good making money, So I think that that's really, really important to dive into if you hold similar beliefs. Because as Jen Sincero points out in this book, money and power are intertwined, especially in a capitalist society where we believe, and, for better or for worse, this is a capitalist society, despite, all of the political conversation around that capital drives the economy, it drives our society. And if you want to make change, you want to impact people, you want to impact your community, the way to do that is with money. And one of the exercises that Jen Sincero recommends in her book, if you're struggling with this, is to sit down and make a list of 10 ways that attracting wealth and getting the money that you want could increase your impact. So make a list of 10 ways that you could use money to help others. And then I would even add to then make a secondary list of 10 people who are really wealthy, who give money or treat money in a way that you admire. And I think these exercises will help you reframe your thinking around wealth and having money. So let's move on to number 3, which really ties into number 2, which is stop thinking and speaking negatively about money. As Jen Sincero says, if you believe money is evil or difficult to make, it will be reflected in your bank account. I had a really great comment from Ashley Harmon, who noted that she has this belief that, and this is a quote, "I will have money in the future after I put in all the hard work." So many of us have that. And I have the same struggle. That is one that I definitely struggle with. And I constantly have to remind myself that it's not true. Money is not compensation for hard work. We all know at face value that is not true. We know there are tons of people out there who do not do what we think of as quote unquote hard work, who make tons of money. And we know there are people out there who are working tirelessly, who are not making tons of money. Money is provided to people based on the perceived value by the person giving the money. That's what money is. It's an exchange of value. And you have to convince the person paying you of the value that you are providing. And so that's why an Instagram influencer can make $10,000 per post, because somebody thinks there's more than $10,000 of value in that post. And let's be honest, that's not the hardest work. And there are some people who don't make that in half a year. And they are working much harder than the Instagrammer who, even if they spent a couple days shooting the post, doing makeup, hair, scripting anything that they need to script, if it's a video, that's work, I admit. And I don't think that becoming an Instagram influencer is easy. Otherwise, we'd all be doing it. But I think we'd all agree that if it just required hard work to make money, there'd be a lot more rich people working in schools and working, in farms. There's so many jobs, nurses. There are just so many jobs out there where people are working tirelessly and not getting the compensation that they would be getting if money was just given to people based on hard work. And likewise, if money was a reflection of having done hard work, then nobody in the world would look more tired than like Oprah and Richard Branson and Bill Gates. They don't look tired. They look very happy and very well rested. Much more so than myself, to be honest. So our goal is to really reframe our thinking about money and how easy it is to attract money into your bank account. So if you are bad mouthing money, cut it out immediately. And you need to become really aware of your own limiting beliefs, question them, and then actively rewrite them. So in the book, Jen Sincero lists a number of different limiting beliefs that she thinks are really common. And I flagged a couple of them that I worked through just so that I could explain to you guys kind of where I'm at and how I reframed them for myself. The first one, which you just talked about, is you have to work hard to make money. And, as I've said, that's clearly not true. And I know that intellectually. So whenever I think that thought, I reframe it as either you have to take bigger risk to make more money, or depending on the circumstance, you have to do a better job of convincing your customer of your value in order to make more money. So for example, if I'm going into an interview and I know that I want to negotiate my salary, then I know my job is to know what I think the value is of my contribution to that company, and then convince the person hiring me of that. Likewise, I know that if I'm investing in my business and I'm afraid to invest the money because I don't want to lose money, and I think that instead of spending the money on another team member, I can just work twice as hard, I have to tell myself, you need to take bigger risks, and that's not a good use of your time. So in order to make more money, sometimes you do have to spend that money and you do have to take that risk. So number 2, it is important to have a good, secure job. Guys, this one is like the toughest one for me. I am somebody who definitely struggles with first child syndrome. And I think coming from a Nigerian background and a Chinese background, like this is hyper inflated in me. As a child growing up, this is something I've been working through clearly since I read this. I was always allowed a lot of freedom in my life. I was allowed to do pretty much, I didn't have very many rules. My parents were pretty lax as long as I, quote unquote, did what I was supposed to do at school. So very much was imparted on me that school was what I was supposed to be doing. I was supposed to be a good student, and fun was the reward around that other stuff. And so I think as an adult, I've kind of replaced school with work. And so as long as I have a good, secure job, then it means I can go on the vacations I want to go on, and that I can, have this podcast, and I can go out to eat the dinners I want to go out to eat, and I can just kind of do all the fun stuff I want to do. But I've never really thought seriously about what it would mean to do something different, what it would mean to walk away from a 9-to-5 job. And again, I love my job and I like what I get to do. So it's not that I want to do it just because to test this premise, but it is the idea that is a limiting belief, and that's closing doors off for me because I'm not even seeing those opportunities because I'm so stuck in the idea that having a good, secure job is the way to make money, which is not always true. And it's really, really much more challenging, as a lot of you out there know, to gauge the level of quote unquote security that you have at your job. Because at the end of the day, if the company has to let you go, the company's going to have to let you go. If the firm wants to let you walk away, they're going, if they need to let you walk away, they're going to let you walk away. So as much as I love the people that I get to work with and I like the job that I have, I also know it's just a job, and that if push came to shove, they may let me go. And I have to be open to all opportunities outside of just another 9-to-5 job or 7-to-7 job, whatever you want to call what being a lawyer is. And the last limiting belief that really was triggering for me was money causes stress. I don't actually worry about money that much because to be honest with you, and quite comfortable, and we have a comfortable life and our financial situation is very stable. But I do find that money causes me stress when I think into the future. And when I think about, am I making the right plans? Am I putting the right foundation in place? Am I saving enough so that we can continue to be comfortable, so that our financial situation can continue to be secure? Like a lot of women, I think I struggle because I know that my income isn't going to just go up forever. I know that women tend to take more breaks in their careers for lots of reasons. And I'm just cognizant of the fact that it's going to be hard to predict where my income will be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. So it's hard for me to predict into the future. And that causes stress for me. And so then I just don't want to think about it, because then I feel like the money's causing me stress. And it's not the money that's causing stress, right? It's the uncertainty that's causing stress. It's the hyperbolic thinking that's causing stress. And so I just have to reframe this and know that money is just a tool, and that money is abundant, and that the stress that I'm creating is of my own making. And I can reduce that stress by controlling my thoughts and mastering my mindset about money. So those are some examples of the things that came up for me. I would love to hear kind of what limiting beliefs you guys are tackling and how reframing those beliefs has worked or hasn't worked for you guys, and which ones you're really struggling with. So number 4, our thoughts and words are more powerful than you can imagine. This really was such a powerful section for me and a lesson for me in this book. You know, our thoughts create our beliefs. And the way Jen Sincero explains it in the book is it's basically like having repetitive thoughts digs grooves. It carves physical grooves into your mind. And the more you have a thought, the more habitually you have a thought, the harder it is to replace it, because it gets carved so deeply into your sense of self and your sense of the way the world is. And as a result, when you try to change the way you are showing up in the world, when you try to question these thoughts, it will completely freak out your subconscious. Your subconscious will be like, what? Nope. We decided a long time ago that you have to work hard to make money. Don't talk this silly talk about how things can be easy. Don't go down the road of telling me that this isn't true, because you've been telling me for the last 25 years that this is true. And so it creates this cognitive dissonance and this kind of discomfort, which we talked about at the very beginning of this, that you need to work through. And that's why Jen Sincero really imparts on us in the book that controlling those thoughts and rewriting them, and then thinking the new thoughts as repetitively as you've thought those old thoughts, and then putting action to it, is the only way to undo the bad thoughts that you previously had. Not bad. I don't want to judge the thoughts. Let's go with the limiting thoughts that you had previously. And one of the really great exercises that I saw on this, and I'm going to blank out on she wrote the book Abundance Now. And in the book, she recommends that you basically, in pencil, you write the limiting beliefs. And then right below that, in red pen, you write the new belief you want to have. And basically every day, you just read the old belief, the new belief, the old belief, the new belief, the old belief, the new belief. And you do that 3 times a day for like 30 days. And then after the 30 days, you physically erase the old belief. And so now all you have is the new belief. And so every day you read the new belief, the new belief, the new belief, the new belief. And it's almost like you're telling your brain, it's okay to let this go. We've replaced that with this. And now these are the new things we believe. So that's something that you could also try if you feel like you have kind of these lingering limiting beliefs that you're having a hard time reframing. Number 5, hire someone to help you manage your money if necessary. This is such a good one. We as lawyers should know this better than anyone. There are professionals out there to help you and who want to serve you and who are really passionate about this stuff. Don't go it alone. If you need help, ask for help. I got a great message from someone anonymously while we were talking about this in the book club. And she said, and this is a quote, "My parents refused to talk about money with each other, much less with their children. I made it through undergrad with full academic and athletic scholarships, which took care of all my needs. Therefore, I didn't learn to budget or handle my finances when many of my peers did. I thought this was such an interesting comment because there's so much layered on top of it. This expectation that her parents knew something that they weren't teaching her, and maybe they did. Obviously, there's not enough here for me to know. Maybe her parents are actually very good with money and they just didn't pass that down. But I doubt that's the case because I find that most people are actually who are good with money want to pass that to their kids. Often the reason parents don't talk to their kids about money is because they don't know how. And then there's the thing that she says about how she made it through undergrad on scholarships, which took care of all her needs. And my first thought was, if she was living within those budgets, then she was learning about budgeting, because she could have gone out and got credit cards and spent beyond her needs, but she didn't do that. She lived within her means and didn't go over what the scholarship was affording her. And so that's like the foundation of budgeting. That's the foundation of financial responsibility and money management. But we have this feeling, and I think as women, we especially have this feeling that because we're not using the lingo, because our thoughts aren't very quote unquote sophisticated, we don't know enough. And I was reading a recent study that shows that actually 40% of people who test at the highest levels of financial literacy did not learn it from their family. In fact, it is the people with the bottom 20% of financial literacy who get their financial information from friends and family. So this idea that because our parents didn't teach it to us means that we can't get there or that we're behind isn't really true. I think that often, it's exactly this stage in your life when you start to learn all the pieces of what it means to be an adult, what it means to manage your own money, and what it means to be financially responsible. And to be fair, she did note afterwards that she's really trying to learn and read and is joining this book club and trying to listen to podcasts and things so that she can develop her own understanding of money. And so there's a couple points here. One, don't think that you're behind because no one taught you, because the reality is most people didn't get taught. And even of the people who know a lot, they weren't taught by their parents. Two, what you know is probably enough to get you where you need to go and to learn the things you need to learn. And three, if you want more than that, you can always hire help. That's what's so great about the era in which we live today is you can get help at almost every price point. There are people who can help you even if you have negative dollars in the bank, and it's not going to cost you a huge amount of money. If you want recommendations for people, I'm happy to share those. There's great podcasts out there that if you listen to on a regular basis, it's just going to increase your financial literacy and your comfort with the terminology and your sense of confidence about the topics. And so if you want recommendations for that as well, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to share those. At the end of the day, if you need help, it's okay to invest in your own financial literacy. All of the richest people in the world have help. Like Warren Buffett, obviously, isn't doing it by himself. Bill Gates isn't writing checks out. Oprah is. She, in fact, always writes her checks out. But she has a financial advisor who's helping her manage that money. And it doesn't matter whether you have a ton of money or whether you have no money. Managing money is fraught with emotion, and sometimes having that independent third party to assist you can help take the emotion out of it and help you spot those blind spots. I actually just hired a financial planner myself for that exact reason. I've been managing my finances on my own for the last few years, and we had a very clear goal to pay off our student loans by X date. We missed that date by about 5 months, but all in all, I think we did a really good job. But now I kind of need direction in the next 5 years of my life. And I wanted to have someone who's a professional come in and make sure that I was making the right moves and I wasn't missing anything or thinking too simply about big issues or overcomplicating simple issues, which, let's be honest, is the second is really more of my issue than the first. And so she's really great. And we've been working with her since, actually, it's only been about a month. So she's been great so far. I'll give you guys an update on how that's going. I think that's all I have for get help if you need it. So let's move on to number 6, which is one of my favorite. Dream big and follow your dreams. As Jen Sincero says, you are here to live your fullest life and have permission to make all the money you need to live that life. I love that. I think that some of the discomfort that I hear people express is from having let go of that dream. I think there are some of you out there who have let yourselves down. I'm not in a bad way. I just think that you've made choices that you know weren't the right ones and let your dreams kind of wither on the vine. And because you haven't stepped up and showed up for yourself in your life, there is this sense of disappointment and the sense of having let yourself down. The good news is you can actually fix that today. You can turn it around and you can reinvest and recommit to your dreams. In the book, Jen Sincero says that big aspirations lead to big results and specific aspirations lead to specific results, which I love. I actually have been doing a couple of surveys on my Instagram stories to get a sense of where you guys are with your dreams and your sense of being able to accomplish those dreams. And about 50% of you actually know what makes you happy. But that does mean that there's 50% of you who don't know what makes you happy. And I don't think that that's unusual. I think that that was about what I would have guessed. And I don't think that that is even, I actually think that's high. I'm quite proud of you guys out there, the 50% of you who know. And for those of you who haven't quite figured it out, for a lot of people, it's a lifelong process. And it doesn't have to be a hard kind of painful process, because what you get to do is you get to see things that are exciting to you and try them and see how that makes you feel. But figuring out what makes you happy happens in action. It doesn't happen in thought. And one of the things that Jen Sincero really emphasizes is the more specific you can get about what makes you happy and what you want out of your life, the more realistic it is that you will achieve those dreams. So this is definitely one of those situations where you have to have a strong belief held loosely, because I don't think what she's advocating for is that you hold on to it so tightly that you're unwilling to compromise and unwilling to settle for anything less. But I do think what she's saying is you have to hold on to it so that it can be like a guiding star for you and can be the thing that helps you make decisions, move through tough situations, decide between two tough forks in the road. Once you know the specifics of what you're trying to accomplish, it'll be easier to know whether the choices and actions that you're currently taking in your life are in alignment with that potential dream. So let's go on to number 7. Number 7, you can have your excuses or successes. You can't have both. I think this is so good because I hear so many people who have so many excuses for why they can't make the money they want to make. And they're probably right. I don't disagree with them. It's just that you can either change that situation or you cannot make the money. And that's just the reality of it. And I'm not saying that to be harsh, and I'm not saying that to undermine the entire premise of this book, but I am saying it to say that you have agency in your life and you get to choose what truth you want to hold on to. Do you want to hold on to the truth of that excuse, of that current reality, or do you want to chase the potential success that comes from letting go of that excuse? I got a great comment from Jay on Instagram, and she said, I'm totally committed to aggressively paying down debt. I've already paid a total of $4,000 off in January and hope to bump it up to $5,000 in February and be completely rid of credit card debt. I even started investing small amounts in my 401k, even though I want that money now. I did a little happy dance when she posted this, because this is the exact type of commitment you need to have towards your own financial success. You have to make big money moves if you want big money success. And the person who got themselves into credit card debt is not the same person who is committed to aggressively paying it down. That is abundantly clear. And everybody kind of has to make that own mindset shift in their own time. But I was super excited to see that almost 88% of you in my very informal Instagram survey, almost 88% of you stated that you do have a plan for improving your financial situation, which is amazing. The thing that I did find surprising, though, was that only 50% of you know your financial freedom number. So what is a financial freedom number? Some of you may have heard of the FIRE movement. Some of you may not have heard it. The FIRE movement stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. And it's basically a movement or a community of people who are interested in retiring at a non-conventional age. For some people, that's as young as 30. For other people, it's, cutting off just 5 or 10 years at 55 or 60. In any case, they're very committed to this idea of achieving financial independence. I think the retire early part is less strongly held by the community. I think it's more achieving that enough money that you don't need to work is the idea. And so in order to achieve that, you have to know what your number is. And people call it lots of things. They call it their freedom number, their FU number, their FI number. But it's the number, the amount of money that you would need to have in assets in order to not have to work anymore. And there's lots of ways to figure that number out. The most basic way to figure that number out is to first understand what is the lifestyle that you want to live, and then multiply that number by 25. And that'll tell you how much you have to have in assets, because I don't want to get too wonky on you guys and go too in the numbers, but there's this general rule that you can draw 4% of your investment down each year. And you could do that basically for like forever and never draw down the principal, because you would only be drawing down interest is the idea. So if you can figure out how much you need per year, you multiply that by 25, that gives you the 4%, you reverse engineer. You guys get where I'm going with this. So the important part, though, is the initial input. You need to know how much the life you want costs. And I think for the people who don't know what their financial freedom number, that's probably where they get stuck. And so the way I kind of encourage people to do this is to really take those five or six big costs, and then that'll give you a rough starting point. So for example, if you know that one day you want to live in Italy, you would just go online and do some dreaming, find some houses in Italy, see how much they cost, look around, find a cost of living calculator, see how much it costs to live in Italy, how much does it cost to own a car in Italy, how much are groceries in Italy. And then you could kind of figure out a rough number for what that life would cost. And then you just multiply that by 25. I know there's all of you out there who are saying, okay, so it's going to cost me $100,000. And so now what you're telling me is I need like $2.5 million. Correct. That is what I'm telling you. What you also need to understand is, there's so many rules I want to teach you guys right now, but I don't want to get too in the numbers. There's another rule that basically, I think it's the rule of 72, but basically what it says is that depending on the interest rate that you expect to get on your investments, your money will double every X amount of years. You divide 72 by that interest rate, and that tells you how many years it'll take for your money to double. So for the sake of easy numbers, if you think your interest rate is 10%, your money would double every 7.2 years. Likewise, if you think your interest rate is going to be 7, your interest rate would double about every 10 years. You get the point. And so in order to get to $2.5 million, let's say you want to retire by 60 and you think your money is going to double every 10 years. So by 50, you'd have to have 1.25. By 50, you'd have to have 750. By 40, you'd have to have 375. And so $375 is not a huge amount of money. And that's if you never contributed again. So you'd have to have 375 and then never contribute again. And at 60, you'd have $2.5 million. Like, that's crazy. So I know somebody out there is going to check my math and tell me I'm off, but I appreciate you guys for doing that. I would love to talk about more about this if it's something of interest to you, but I don't want to get too in the weeds because I know that some of you have really glazed over when I talk numbers. And I want to wrap this up with my very last and favorite of all the lessons I learned. And that is trust in the universe, trust the system, don't lose faith. This one is so important because it's not going to be easy. this all comes back to the fact that it's going to be uncomfortable at times, and that even when you have a great mindset and a great dream and wonderful specifics, and you're holding them tightly but loosely enough, and you've done all the inner work, you're doing the outer work, it's still going to get tough, and it's still going to feel like it's not working out, and you're still going to fail sometimes. But that doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. That doesn't mean things have gone awry. That doesn't mean the dream is wrong. It doesn't mean the plan is wrong. It just means you don't understand, looking forward, what your life has in store for you. And I truly, truly believe that we're all capable of great things if we truly believe it and pursue those things. And that is what I want for each and every one of you. So I really, really hope that you guys enjoyed this book. And I hope that it was fun for you guys to hear me sort of ad-lib my thoughts. In the future, I will try to be more organized, but I just wanted to get behind the mic and tell you guys my thoughts, and also announce a couple things. I want to do a couple housekeeping things before I jump off for today. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who participated and everybody who contributed. It means so much to me. I love talking about this stuff, and I love learning so much more about you guys. And I encourage you guys to continue to help each other out and to continue to chat in the comments and Instagram, and to DM me and to send me emails so that I can continue to share your contributions on the next version of the show. For the next book, as you guys who follow me on Instagram will know, we are reading a new book that just came out this month, which I was excited to get my hands on. It's by Jen Sincero, and it's called The Dumb Things Smart People Do with Their Money: 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. I really like Jen Sincero. She's a very traditional money gal, and she's been on CBS News. She's MSNBC. She's one of those types. And so I wanted to get kind of a little bit of a balance, since, Jen Sincero was kind of in the woo-woo-y, headspacey mindset space. I wanted to get something a little bit more practical, a little bit more down to earth. And I know you guys are all super smart people out there. And so I thought this book would really resonate with you. And I also wanted to announce the winner for the free book. As you guys know, everybody who participates in the comments and asks questions is eligible to get a free copy of this book. And so the winner of this book is Emily. Her Instagram account information is elil. And so, Emily, I will DM you personally and ask you how you want your copy of the book. But if you hear this before I get to you, please feel free to send me a message. And I look forward to reading the next book with you guys. So, thanks so much. Thanks so much for listening. And if you got value out of this episode and you think there's someone else who might enjoy it, I'd love for you guys to share. And if you have any questions for me, please head over to the website at thehappylawyerproject.com, and you can leave me a voicemail right on the website. When you get there, you'll see a little tab on the right hand of the screen, and you can click on it and leave a voicemail there. I absolutely love hearing from you guys. Last but not least, if you enjoy this podcast and you like the content that I'm bringing to you guys, and you haven't done so already, I would really encourage you guys to head over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a rating and review. That's all for this week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening.